Okie dokie, guys. Let me get my screen shared. I think entire screen is good. All right. Okay, hopefully you all can see my screen. May move some stuff around. All right. So I'm going to take you into my Excel spreadsheet. This is going to be my first document. Oh my goodness. I've already saved it. Close the recovery. All right. And you should have a data set that looks something like this. So what we're going to basically do is I'm going to walk you through the steps that you can get your data into the same way that your data should be. And if you need to rewind this video and go back, you should do that just to make sure that you get everything the right way. So what we're doing, and I recommend that you have your Excel downloaded to your desktop. So you should have the desktop version and not the web version. It just makes this a lot easier. All right, so you have some data that looks like this, and you're going to do this for both data sets. So we're going to do one at a time though. So we'll take image and we'll go up to our home tab and we'll delete cells, and it should move all of that over. Um, so we're going to skip camera because we want to keep camera. We'll move to longitude, latitude. So if you hit the shift button, you can click the longitude and then shift, and then go ahead and click to the year column, and you can delete all of this. So you can come up to cells, delete cells, and it'll again shift all of those cells to the left. So this we're going to leave alone right now, the season, time, and veg type. And we're going to go to human, and we are going to delete. So click E, then shift and hold and click H. And this is going, you can delete these as well. And then you'll have species here. So you can drag this out, drag this out. This is species count. We want that. So we're going to go to percentage, and we're going to shift click all the way over to image URL, and we're going to delete those cells. So you should be left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns now. And you don't need all 6 of these. You do need camera. That's important. Everyone should have camera. So I'm going to highlight the ones that everyone should have. Camera, species, and species count are something that everybody in the class should have on their Excel spreadsheet. The season, time period, and veg type are going to be, what just happened? Are going to be, do you want to turn sticky keys on? No. Are going to be things that are unique to each group. So these are the things that you changed. These are the criteria that you changed. So if you recall last week when we did this, we decided that we were going to change one thing in our data set is either the season, wet, dry, dry, wet, wet, dry, the time of day, that would be day, dawn, dusk, and night, or the vegetation type, which was the floodplains, the grassland, the savanna, that kind of stuff. So whichever one you decided to change is going to be the one that you keep. So I think I have another data set I can just check. Um, so like if you can see my page here, I have wet day floodplain and I have savanna wet day. So these two are the same except that the savanna wet day is in a different place than the floodplain wet day. So I'm going to keep the savanna, like the place, because that's the thing that is different between these two. Okay. So I'm going to keep the veg type. So I can go ahead and delete the season. So I can shift and delete time period because the thing I changed was the vegetation type. Okay. Now we're going to highlight all of our data. And so the best way you do this is to click in the very top cell, scroll over a few, and like while you're still holding your cursor like this, that you can move it up and down and stuff, you're gonna hit and hold the shift key. You can now let go of your cursor, come over to your sidebar here, and find the bottom of the data, which, well, seems to be not that far. Okay. So I guess my point is that you don't necessarily have to keep your mouse, like you don't have to drag it all the way down. For those of you who have a ton of data, doing this and just dragging can be a little crazy. This data set doesn't seem to have a lot of data, but um, if you wanted to, you can highlight the top, scroll down, hit shift, let go of your cursor, like your mouse button, and then you can hit the bottom last cell and it will, while you're holding that shift key, and it will highlight the entire like set of data from where you started to where you ended. My point here is that you need to highlight all of the data, okay? What we're going to do now with the data highlighted is go to the data tab in our top menu bar here and go to sort. If you're on a Mac, you may have something that says sort like special or custom. You're going to hit that. You're going to sort by column. So here's column. We're going to sort by camera and hit OK. And it should put the cameras in a sorted order. Now, this data set does not have a whole lot of cameras. So when I do my pivot table, it's going to look a little different than yours. It's only going to have 3 cameras, but that's okay. Um, so before you click out of the data, keep the data highlighted. We're going to go back into, oh my gosh. Ah, okay, let me just do sort again, just to make sure. I'm going to sort by camera type. You can always undo something if something happens. So I still have my data highlighted. I'm going to come back and I'm going to go to insert and I'm going to do pivot table. Now I'm going to do it in an existing worksheet. So you should have something that looks like this on a Mac. Again, it's going to be a little bit different, but you should have your table range, which is all of the highlighted information that we have. And we're also going to have where we want to put the pivot table. So we're going to put it in this worksheet. So I'm just going to click a couple of cells away from my data and hit OK. You should get something that looks like this, or this usually comes up on a Mac, and sometimes this doesn't show up. But that's good. We want to use what's going on over here. So in your pivot table, we're going to take the camera, click and hold, and drag that into the rows. You should get rows of camera. We're going to take species and drag it into the columns box. And we're going to take species count and drag it into the values box. Okay. You should have something that looks like this. Yours may be a lot more data. Like I said, this one only has 3 cameras, so we are only working with a limited number of data points here. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is highlight the data that's in the table because we can't actually work with this data because it's a bunch of formulas and equations. So what we need to take is our cursor. We're going to highlight everything in the table, making sure not to include the camera labels or the column labels. We just want the numbers. Now we're going to copy, and I'm going to move down about at least 1 cell between the pivot table and this new data. And I'm going to right click. This is very important. You want to right click and you want to paste values only. So you have all these paste options here when you go to paste. You've got paste regular, you've got paste values, you've got paste formulas, transpose, blah, blah, blah. We want paste values. Make sure you get paste values. Okay. I like to just go ahead and highlight my data a little bit. It helps me see it and know what I'm working with. All right. So now we can actually work with this data. So we're going to come over to the right. I like to skip a little, one column over. And this is going to be where we calculate our richness. And so Excel formulas must start with an equal sign. So we're going to do equals, and we're going to get our count of how many species each we're seeing in each camera, right? At each camera. So we're going to do count, and we're going to highlight all of this data in the first row, just the first row. Close parentheses and hit enter, and you should get 11. Or you should not get 11, you should get whatever number of species you have. But I could count this. Oh, I'm sorry, I actually should have 10. Let me do this again. You want to do equals count, and you want to take everything but the grand total. So this row or this column here and this bottom row here, those are grand total rows. So we want to make sure we don't include the grand total species. So now I'm going to hit enter and I should get 10. Now you can check this work. So I'm just going to go ahead really quick and highlight these as my like grand total rows. They're kind of different. They're not exactly the data. Again, you don't have to do all this highlighting. It just helps me kind of see in my brain what's going on, that these are grand totals and not counts. So you can check your number and make sure you did this right by simply counting the number of species for each camera. So like for D14 in this row, there were 38 baboons. So there were baboons seen, there were bushwicks seen, there were elephants seen, Duke ears seen, all of these. As long as there's a number in the column, you can count it. So one, two, oh, there's no buffalo, so I can't count buffalo. So I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that makes sense. That's what the count is. That's what the richness is. It's literally just how many species were seen in this environment. So we're going to do the same thing for the rest of these, but remember, you don't have to rewrite each formula. You can go ahead and take the cursor to the bottom right-hand corner where it will turn into a small black cross, and you can drag that down. You are going to drag it all the way down to the bottom row or bottom row where there is the grand total. This is your total richness. I'm just going to write it next to it, total richness for this location, for this environment. Now I'm going to go down up like a cell from my data, and I'm going to do a percentage. So I'm going to call this the percentage. And this is going to help us calculate diversity. So we're looking for the percent, like what percent of the population was baboons. So we would say there were 58 baboons. So I'm going to do equals, and I'm going to click on this 58 because there were 58 baboons divided by our grand total. So the grand total of baboons divided by the grand total, okay? And that's going to give me the percent of baboons present in the area. I'm going to go ahead and just drag that. Oh, actually, before I drag it over, really quick, this is important. Before you drag this over, to keep this grand total locked in, we have to go back into our formula. So you can double click on it. You can come up to the top bar, wherever is easier for you. And we're going to put a dollar sign right before the S12 for mine, in my case. Your numbers will be different than mine because your cells will be different. But I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of the grand total cell, the red cell, and that's going to lock that cell into place so that when I drag my formula all the way across, it's going to give me the proper numbers. You can check and make sure that your formula is correct. First of all, it should give you numbers. If it doesn't give you numbers, something is wrong. You probably don't have the dollar sign in the right spot. But you can also drag it all the way over and it gives you a 1. And that means 100% because the grand total divided by the grand total is going to make 100%. All right, so that's just sort of my like mathematical check. The next thing we're going to do is the natural log of the percent. So we're going to do equals ln, which is the natural log, and we're going to take this number. Close parentheses, and you should get a negative number. Go ahead and drag that across. You should get a 0. So again, that formula is just the natural log of the number that we just calculated that we called the percent. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply the percent by the natural log of the percent. So this formula is going to just be equals, and then you can click right above for the natural log of the percent, do an asterisk, so Shift 8 and put the asterisk in, and then click the box above it or the percent box where we just calculated those percentages. So you should have our two rows that we just did calculated multiplied by each other. We're going to hit enter and we're going to drag that formula across. You don't really need these columns, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete them. Those were just my checks to make sure I was getting my formulas properly correct. So now I'm going to calculate our diversity. And I just need to check one thing. So I don't know what that load. Sorry, guys. All right. I'm going to make sure I have my formula properly correct. Actually, I think I can open another Excel spreadsheet. Let's see if I can do that. That may be quicker. Let's see. Sorry, I just don't want to tell you guys the wrong thing, but I think it's the sum. Yeah, I think it's the sum. Yep, okay. So back to this. So the oops, hello. Y'all, I hate computers. Okay, this one. So the diversity is going to be equal to the sum. So double click the sum of this last column of numbers. And then we're going to multiply it by -1. So your formula should look like this. Well, the sum and then highlight all of the numbers. Remember, if you kept your grand total, just leave your grand total off. And then multiply it by -1. It's going to get rid of that negative number. And this is our diversity. Now, our evenness is going to be the diversity divided by the square root of the richness. I'm going to just double check my work here. Is the diversity. Oh, the natural log. Okay. That's different. Okay. So our evenness is going to be, why does it keep doing that? All right. Our evenness is going to be equals the diversity divided by the natural log, so that ln again, of the total richness of this group. Close the parentheses, and now we have our richness, evenness, and diversity. I'm going to go ahead and highlight these yellow because these are the important numbers that I'm going to need from you later. Okay, and now that you have this done, so you have richness, you have diversity, and you have evenness, you have the data for this set done. You'll need to repeat the data for your second set. You'll need to repeat all of these steps for your second step, for your second set of data. So I would advise you to start this video over at this point and work through it again. And then once you get back here, we're going to now do the t-test where we are going to compare your data from the first set to the data from the second set. And what this is going to tell us is how different, or is there a significant difference between the richnesses in those two populations? So what a sample t-test does is it looks at these two populations and it says, I know these aren't exactly the same criteria, but I know that, and so we can compare the means using a t-test and determine whether there's a significant difference between the two sets of data. So I am going to go to my other data set here, which I want to say was, this is the day in the floodplain, and this is the day in the Savannah. Okay, so Savannah wet day. What's this one? That's also Savannah wet day. This is floodplain wet day. Okay. Sorry, I'm just making sure my things look right. All right. Same stuff. I just changed the floodplains. So this is they're not the same richness, are they? And this must be the second one. Okay. So this is, yeah. Oh, yeah, look, I did it here. Okay, so this is the data from my second um, set of data. I already have done it. So you just can see that I've calculated my richness, my diversity, and my evenness. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my richness all the way to the grand total, copy it, and then come to my other formula like sheet. And I'm going to come over here, like just off to the side, because you're going to need a little bit of space for this. And I'm going to paste it. So this is my richness from the Savannah. Yeah, I'm the worst speller on the planet. So if I spelled that wrong, just like, please forgive me. Okay. And I'm also going to take my richness from here, copy, and I'm going to put it over here just to have another set. Oh, wait, I didn't do that right. Okay, I forgot about this. Back it up, just 10 seconds here. Okay, before you copy and paste those data, uh, that data stuff, remember how I told you you have to copy and paste as the values only. That's again important. So we're going to go back here. I'm going to do this again, but instead of just hitting paste, I'm going to come in and paste the values only. This ensures that I get those numbers and that the formulas don't come with it and start changing all my numbers up. That's very important. So make sure you just copy and then just paste the values only. Okay, now we're going to calculate a count, a mean, and a standard deviation. So we're going to go ahead and do N is going to be our count. X is our mean. So let's do X is our mean. And N is our count. Okay, and then we got the STDEV, we got S, and then we have our standard error, which I don't even think we need, to be honest. So we're just going to skip standard error. All right. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and use those formulas that we used in our first lab when we calculated the mean and the standard deviation and all of that stuff to do this. Okay. So for the first, oh, and make sure that you have, sorry, I forgot to do this. Make sure that you have your richnesses labeled. So this one is the floodplain. I'm just going to do FP. And this one is the Savannah. So I'm just going to do SV. Okay. All right. That way I know what's what. Okay. Now I'm going to do equals count. Double click it. And then shift or drag. And don't include the grand total. Remember that those grand total numbers are included in there right now. And we want to make sure that we're not including those because that is not an actual count of richness. So then enter or count of our data points. You're going to do the same here. If you have your data right up above, like you want to make sure that you keep your data sort of down one so you know that this is different, right? So then equals count, but do them all in the same plane so they're all right there. Go ahead and get all of those data points. And so this is basically telling you that you had 3 cameras. In this place, I had 4 cameras, right? Then the mean is going to be equals average. And then you'll highlight these, just those 3. Remember, we don't want the grand total in there because it is not actually a count, right? I mean, it's just the grand total. And then we'll do the same here. So average, and we'll grab all of those. And then we'll do the standard deviation, which is equals STDEV dot S. And we'll just do the same thing. We'll grab those numbers minus the grand total. And we'll do that again here. STDEV dot S. Okay. And so now we're going to grab these numbers, close parentheses. Okay. And so what we have now is we have some way to compare our means. We can see our standard deviations, and we have a count. We'll need all of those things to calculate our t-test. So down here, I'm going to say t-test, and then I'm going to just double check that I know what my t-test is supposed to be, because this formula is quite substantial. Okay, I remember now. Okay, so I'm gonna write it out on the Excel spreadsheet so you guys can see what it looks like, and then I'm going to put it in and show you guys what that comes out to be. Okay, whoops, I'm knocking stuff over now. All right, so in this, the t-test, I'm gonna put it over here. Ah, I hate when it does that. Work for me. All right, so the t-test formula is mean 1 minus mean 2, and then it is divided by the square root, so SQRT of, and I would put, oops, I'm gonna put parentheses in front of this, the variable V1, so this is your, actually, it's your richness, so your total richness, I'm going to say TR, total richness, or S. Let's just do S1. Divided by N1. I know this is a lot, guys. Plus the S2 divided by N2. Okay, and then I'm just going to check that. So it's a nasty formula. So mean 1 minus mean 2 divided by the square root of variable 1, which is the richness total, divided by the number or the count plus the total richness of 2 divided by the count. Okay, that is correct, you guys. We got it. All right. So I know that's an ugly, ugly, ugly formula. Oh, it just loves to hate me. And that's okay. We're gonna make it work. I'm gonna move it. I'm gonna move it over just a smidge so I can work it here. Okay. So lock in. We're gonna do this together. Equals, open parentheses, the mean 1. So let's take the richness of the floodplains and subtract it from the richness of the savanna. So just follow your richness mean over. I'm sorry, the means, not the richness, the means. So just use the mean of this one and the mean of that one. Close those parentheses, divided by, open parentheses, SQRT, whoops, SQRT, open parentheses, S1, which is going to be our richness, right? So our total richness of 1 divided by the number, which is 3 here, close those parentheses, plus, open the parentheses, the richness, total richness of the second one divided by that, the number, the count of the second one, and then close those parentheses again, and it should tell me if I have a problem. All right, I'm gonna get a negative number. That's fine. Um, whoa. If yours is negative, it's because your means are different. So I'm just gonna go in and if you don't get a negative number, don't do this, but I'm just gonna go in and multiply it by -1 because I just want to get a positive number. It makes my brain feel better about the whole thing. Okay, now go on to your Googles or whatever, and you can do I don't have this in anything. I'm sorry. A t-test table. Pull this up. You're going to get something that looks like this. This is a good one. You can also just use this. All right, just give me the table, please. One-tailed, I don't know. Oh, we need to also get the degrees of freedom. I don't know if this is a two-tailed test or a one-tailed test. I would imagine it's a two-tailed test. So let's go for this one. All right. Oh, just work. Let's see. Open in it. No. I just want to get the tape. Gosh, y'all. I'm gonna lose my mind. Okay, let's try again. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this one. How about that? Any of them. I'll take any of them at this point. Goodness. Oh, this is crazy. All right, well, I want this one though, honestly. I'm just gonna take it. Re-download. Download the T-table. Good God. Okay, here's our T-table. Yay! Okay, so we need to figure out what the degrees of freedom are for your set of data. Okay, so let's go back to my data sheet. We have our t-test number. This is important. I'm going to highlight it yellow. I mean, and this is also important information. So we highlight that yellow as well. You should have all of these by the end of this. Um, and then I'm going to put down here, this is going to be my t value or let's do t table. That way we know where it came from. And so I also need degrees of freedom. So let me do that first. And I just paste that down here. I'm going to move my formula over. Y'all don't have to have this formula in your sheet. I just needed it to show you guys. All right, so we're gonna look up the degrees of freedom. So in the case that you have two different counts for your two data sets, you're gonna pick the data set with the lower count. So my counts here are 3 and 4. So I'm going to pick 3. And your degrees of freedom are going to be n minus 1. So n is 3 for me, and minus 1. So n minus 1 is 2. So 3 minus 1 is 2. So I could do n minus 1. I'll just leave that in there. And then for me, it's 2. So see where the best place to put this is. Maybe just right here. Okay. And this is just one. This is just one thing. All right. So my degrees of freedom are 2. And so I'm going to go to my table, my T table, which is in Google. Come on. And we're going to stay in this green highlighted column, and I'm going to find my degrees of freedom, which is 2, come over to this column and see that my value, my T-table value is 4.303. So I'm going to come back over here and say my T-table value was 4.303. And now I'm going to test the significance. So significance. Just gonna make this a little wider because I don't love that. All right, so my significance is going to say if 0.742 is less than 4.303, then I believe there is no significant difference, but let me just double check that. Yeah, so if your number is less than the t-test number, which is an important number also. This is an important number also. Then we're going to say there is no significant difference between the two. There's no significant difference in richness in the Savannah versus the grassland, whatever my other one was. Woodland, I don't remember what it was. Floodplain. Yeah, that's the grassland. Okay. So that's sort of what our significance tells us. I'm just going to highlight all of this. This is important information. This is also important. So you should have some of this highlighted. So basically, at the end of the day, what I need from you is a screenshot of this. So part snip, I'm going to come in. If I were doing like your homework, I would like get a screenshot of all of this information and then come over to, let me see if I have the Word document. Probably somewhere. Well, I can just come to the Blackboard page and grab it. Okay, let's just do general biology. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and grab technical report. I know you guys have a little bit of a different visual. I'm just going to try to get I just need to get it so I can show you guys what we're doing here. Okay. So we're going to remember you should have already had your research question and your hypothesis, as well as no, that's where you should have stopped. So your results would go here. Oh, it should have copied my. It didn't. Okay, part snip. Let's try that again. So I'm gonna take a screenshot of this. Come to my Word, citizen science. Go ahead and put my data here. I don't know why it's not pasting. Oh, I can enable editing. That's why. What you'll do it, girl. Got it. Come on. All right, there you go. There you go. So I'd have this in here. Now, that's not all I want from this part. You need to define the data that you collected. So you should have already done that as well in class last week. You should have said, like, we picked the savanna and the wet and the dry, and then we compared it to the woodland and the wet and the dry, or the floodplain and the wet and the dry. And then I want you to tell me, like, we found that there was, a greater richness in the savanna, but there was no significant difference at the end of the day, even though the means differed. I mean, like in my case, the total richness of the savanna was double the richness of the floodplain, but the data, the statistical tests, the statistical t-test confirmed that there was no significant difference in the richness between the two populations. So say something like that. Um, was there significant difference? Yes or no? Which group had higher biodiversity? If you did find that, you can talk about the diversity. Remember, a higher diversity means that there's more diversity. A higher evenness means that there is higher number of evenness in the species. So there's probably, like in my case, it's pretty high. One is the highest number you can get in evenness. So I would say the population in my savanna. Oh, I probably also should I'd like you to also include the richness and diversity of your your second set. So make sure that I can see both. Like I'd like to have this too. Remember when you're copying, you you want to make sure that you just paste the values and not you can put it in the same Excel spreadsheet, or you can take two pictures. It's up to you. I'm not going to paste it because it doesn't look like it copied. But show me both of your richness, diversity, and evennesses. I'd like to see what you guys come up with for those. Okay, and then your interpretation. What do your results mean? I have a typo there. I also spelled address wrong. I'm told you I'm not a great speller. Uh, did I spell weather wrong too? Oh my God. No, that didn't. I don't know. I don't know how to spell you guys. Um, was your hypothesis supported? So here you're going to just sort of give me a loose idea of whether your hypothesis was supported. Your hypothesis was probably something like if the floodplains flood, then the populations will differ in species richness in the grasslands versus like in the flood in the flood season versus in the wet season versus the dry season. So like if your t-test said it was significant, you would say our hypothesis is our null hypothesis is rejected. There was a significant difference between the two. Just say something along those lines. So I'm just going to write that down. If significant, say um, our t-test showed um, our yeah, our t-test, blah blah blah. We reject the null hypothesis. What the null hypothesis is it's just saying like the two populations are the same. Okay, so you probably didn't write a null hypothesis, but I know what you're talking about. So just say that the null hypothesis is rejected. Okay, and answer that a little bit more thoroughly than I just did here. I don't want a sentence. I don't need two paragraphs, but I need you to elaborate a little bit more than one sentence. Um, yeah. Why might that pattern you observed exist? If you found significant difference, which mean was higher? Did one have more higher diversity? Evenness. Like look at your data and see what's happening, check it out. You should be able to look and see like, oh, this one had a higher evenness than that one. You should be able to see like what population, like baboons were really high in this population. That probably threw my evenness down a bit since everything else seems to be in the same kind of area except for baboons. Look at the data and try to extrapolate on it. Do your best. I'm not asking you to be like a perfect biologist, but just try to, go in and observe, make some observations. And then based on your finding, where does this project take you from here? What other data could you find useful? Well, maybe you want to know a different criteria. So maybe we test like how the seasons affect the grasslands. Whatever you didn't do, Or maybe we want to look at the number of predators in the area. Be creative, make some things up here. What additional data might be useful to you? Well, let's see. If you wanted to know how those floodplains affected, like the flooding seasons affected the animal population, maybe you want to see like what animals are relying on that, what is it? Good God, that flora or that growth, the grass growth. I don't know where my brain is. It's not on. So just try to use your brain here to ask some additional questions, maybe ask some things about like what data could be useful. Maybe you want to know like, what maybe we look at the percentage of animals a little bit more. Maybe we look at how different how the diversity, maybe we do a t-test on the diversity next time. Make it up. I don't care. This is not where I'm going to start like like critiquing you hard, seriously. Um, and then what new questions could be asked? I mean, you could ask a million questions. I don't know, make some up. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will see you on Wednesday, and I will be happy to answer questions on Wednesday. We'll have some downtime. We'll be doing in a more interactive lab this week. So we'll be incubating some yeast. Make sure you read a little bit about what we're doing because we will have a quiz. So yeah, just come to class prepared. Make sure you have your hair pulled back because we will be working with some gross stuff. Well, yeast smells kind of gross. So I don't want you to get your hair in that. And make sure you come prepared to like participate because it is a fun lab. And then bring some questions if you have them about this. All right, thanks so much for understanding that I had to cancel class last week. It's been a rough week for me, but I'm here and that's all that matters. So have a good rest of your weekend, and I will see you on Wednesday.